therapy, the idea of treating disease by directly modifying a patient's genes. It sounds like science fiction, but it's real. It's being studied for mesothelioma, and some early results are intriguing. The question is gene therapy actually going to revolutionize mesothelioma treatment, or is it decades away from practical application? Today, I want to explain what gene therapy for mesothelioma actually is, what the research shows so far, and whether it represents real hope or just hype. I'm Terry Oppenheimer, and I've been writing about mesothelioma and asbestos for the website mesothelioma.net for over a decade. I'm not a physician and I'm not a scientist, and this is not medical advice. But understanding emerging treatments does help patients make informed decisions, especially about clinical trials. So let's start with what gene therapy actually means. Gene therapy involves introducing genetic material into cells to fight disease. Cancer, this might mean introducing genes that help the immune system to recognize cancer cells, introducing genes that make cancer cells more vulnerable to treatment, introducing genes that prevent cancer cells from dividing, or disabling genes within cancer cells that help them survive and spread. Gene therapy is different from genetic testing or genetic counseling. It's not about identifying genetic mutations you were born with. It's about deliberately introducing new genetic material into cells to change how they behave. For mesothelioma specifically, several gene therapy approaches are being studied in preclinical research and early phase clinical trials. But before I take a deeper dive into this material, I want to take a break and ask you to do me a quick favor. If you're finding these videos helpful, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. It makes it easier for other people who need this information to find us. Also, if you have questions or there's a topic you'd like to see addressed in a future video, send me a note in the comments section. And make sure you watch until the end, because I'm going to give you valuable information on where to find resources that will make a real difference for you. So, one approach to gene therapy for mesothelioma involves introducing genes that enhance immune response. These therapies insert genes into tumor cells or immune cells that help the immune system recognize and attack cancer. For example, researchers have studied introducing genes that make mesothelioma cells produce proteins that attract immune cells or that mark the cancer cells as targets. Another approach has the scary name of suicide gene therapy. This is a process where genes are introduced into cancer cells that make them vulnerable to specific drugs. The gene is inactive until the drug is given, and at that point, it's activated and kills the cell it's inside of. This is a method of targeted killing of cancer cells while sparing normal, healthy cells. Oncolytic virus therapy is different but still related to gene therapy. It involves using genetically modified viruses that are designed to infect and kill cancer cells while again leaving normal cells alone. Some of these viruses also carry genes that enhance immune responses. This approach has been studied in several types of cancers, including mesothelioma. Tumors that can't form blood vessels starve because they're not getting the nutrients they need. That's why another type of gene therapy being explored uses genes that block angiogenesis, which is the formation of new blood vessels that mesothelioma tumors need to grow. CRISPR is an exciting gene editing technology that allows precise modification of genes. It's definitely being studied for cancer, but it's mostly in the very early research stages for mesothelioma. The idea is to edit genes in cancer cells to disable their survival mechanisms, or to edit genes in immune cells to make them better cancer fighters. So, with all those descriptions and technologies, what does the research show so far? The honest answer is that research into gene therapy for mesothelioma, it's just getting started. There have been small clinical trials, phase 1 and early phase 2 studies, that have tested safety and looked for initial evidence of activity. There are some that have shown promising results in both, but we don't yet have large phase 3 trials showing that gene therapy improves survival compared to standard treatment. This is important to understand about gene therapy and every other new treatment. Promising early results in 20 or 30 patients, they don't necessarily translate to approved treatments that help thousands of patients. Many cancer therapies that look promising in early trials have failed when they've been tested in larger trials. The challenges with gene therapy are significant. Delivering genes into cells effectively is tough. You need to get genetic material into the right cells, cancer cells or immune cells, in adequate amounts to have an effect. Viruses are often used as delivery vehicles, but getting them to the right place and getting adequate penetration into tumors is also challenging. The immune system, it can recognize and destroy the delivery vehicle before it can get to work. And there are safety concerns, including off-target effects where genes are introduced into cells you didn't intend to modify, or immune reactions to the viral vectors used for delivery. And there can be unpredictable effects from genetic modifications. Manufacturing and cost are also major barriers. Gene therapy is expensive and technically complex to produce. Many gene therapies that have been approved for other diseases, they cost hundreds of thousands to over $1 million per patient. The infrastructure to deliver these treatments only exists at specialized centers, and not every patient is a candidate. So, where does this leave patients diagnosed with mesothelioma? Gene therapy is not currently a standard treatment option for mesothelioma. You can't walk into your oncologist's office and be offered gene therapy the way you can with chemotherapy or even with immunotherapy. However, gene therapy is being studied in clinical trials. For patients who've exhausted standard treatment options or who want access to cutting-edge experimental therapies, clinical trials of gene therapy could be an option. Eligibility for gene therapy trials is typically limited to patients with good performance status, which means it's patients who haven't had extensive prior treatment or whose prior treatments didn't work, and being treated at specialized centers chosen to conduct the trials. So, is gene therapy the future of mesothelioma treatment? Maybe. The science is sound, and the early results in some trials are encouraging. But we're probably years away from gene therapy becoming a standard treatment option for most mesothelioma patients, even if current research pans out. A more likely scenario in the near to medium term is that gene therapy becomes one tool in the toolbox, used for specific patient populations or in combination with other treatments, rather than replacing current approaches entirely. What has actually changed mesothelioma treatment in recent years is not gene therapy. It's immunotherapy. The approval of nivolumab and ipilimumab and pembrolizumab combinations represents real, proven advances that are helping patients now. These aren't gene therapy. They're checkpoint inhibitors that work through a different mechanism. Ongoing research into genetic testing to identify which patients will respond best to which treatments is probably closer to practical application than gene therapy itself. Understanding the genetic characteristics of individual tumors allows personalized treatment selection with existing drugs. Should mesothelioma patients consider enrolling in gene therapy clinical trials? For some patients, sure, yes. If you've exhausted standard options, if you're being treated at a center that's conducting gene therapy trials, if you meet eligibility criteria, and if you understand that you're participating in research where the outcome is uncertain, a gene therapy trial might be worth considering. Clinical trials of experimental treatments serve two purposes. They might benefit you individually if the treatment works, and they advance scientific knowledge that could help future patients, even if you don't benefit directly. But clinical trials do also come with risks and burdens, potential side effects from treatments, frequent monitoring and testing, uncertainty about whether the treatment will work, and potential costs if insurance doesn't cover experimental treatments. The decision to participate in a gene therapy trial should be made after thorough discussion with your oncologist, making sure that you understand what the trial involves and have realistic expectations about potential benefits and risks, and consider alternatives, including standard treatments or other clinical trials. To review, is gene therapy the future of mesothelioma treatment? Potentially, but not yet. Gene therapy is being studied in early phase clinical trials with some promising early results, but significant challenges remain around delivery, safety, manufacturing, and cost. It's not currently a standard treatment option, but for patients interested in cutting-edge research, clinical trials might be available at specialized centers. Real near-term advances are more likely from immunotherapy refinement and genetic testing to personalize existing treatments. You can visit mesothelioma.net for more information about clinical trials, including gene therapy studies. Or if you'd like to speak to one of our patient advocates immediately, you can call us at 1-800-692-8608 or use the live chat feature on the website. As for me, remember to post your questions below, and I'll see you next time.